Hi class, it's JilMac. This is a training video about PHPinclude and require. My students know that they can do closed captioning on my videos. They can speed up or slow down the video by clicking the icon, the flower icon or gear icon, whichever you want to call it. And you can rewind it as often as you want and play it as often as you want. And if you have any questions, you can give me a call or send me an email to jill@jilmac.com. You can also call me, and if you need to call me at some odd hour, we can make an appointment to do that. Okay, so what we're doing is in advanced web development, although you may be watching this video for a different class, because PHPinclude and require are such basic concepts that I may show you this video for in a lot of different classes. But in assignment 2, here's my sample advanced web development menu. And so if we click on that, it brings us up to this menu. It gives us our advanced web development. Under assignments, we have all of these pull-down assignments. We also have a links page and a more page that are yet to be created. Under assignments, if you go to 1, it brings you to the assignment 1 page, and this is what I want your websites to look like. I want you to be able to create a website that has a link to our class, that has a link to all of your work in assignments, has links to your links page where all of your references can be, a more page or another page to other websites that you find helpful. And in the research section, I want you to put your research, which you would normally put in Moodle or Canvas or whatever the LMS is that I'm using for that particular college or university. And the research goes here with your links, and you want your links all clickable. Then I always assign some coding so that we have before and after scripts. And this one is a script for your before, which we've done. There's my first PHP script, and here is a link to the after. And this just shows you that I've modified that code. Now when we look at PHP, we can't just view the page source, because when we view the page source, it doesn't show us any PHP, it just shows us HTML, which is interesting, and we'll talk more about that later. We'll talk about that quite a bit. So I want all of these pages to look approximately the same. Your research goes on the page, your before and after links go, because if you put all of this information into your LMS, your Moodle or Canvas, at the end of the semester, that information is gone. You know, you're locked out of the class. You don't get to be in that class unless you're physically taking that class that semester. And we like to build on what we're doing. I want you to be able to go back and see all of the work you did. If you put it out on Class Web or you have it on a web page, you can back it up and then restore it anytime you want. It'll be out here on Class Web for quite some time, though, much longer than after the semester. So we want to create all of these files, and we want them to be consistent. The way I've set it up is we have a header, we have navigation, we have a footer, and that's going to be the same for all of our pages. Most websites have a consistent header, a consistent footer, some kind of navigation that's consistent throughout the whole site. And just like we do with CSS or JavaScript, so let's go and let's look at the code. First, let's peek at PHP, and where we happen to be learning about PHP 5 because that's what our class web host is. But you can either do the PHP 5 or PHP 7. And in here, down in the advanced section, is where they have PHPinclude, but it's one of the first things I want students to learn about to reduce redundancy. So here it says that require will produce a fatal error. So if you put a require command in, If it can't find that file, it'll just stop running the program. With a PHPinclude, and here's the code. Let me just go down a little bit more. So here's an include. If it can't find that footer file, it's just going to display as much of the web page as it can. So usually we use includes, but sometimes you want to have a require. So let's look at this in our own code. So I'm going to go to Centura. I'm going to go up to the home page. And in Centura, under File Management, and your File Management may be over on the left navigation, or the left column. Mine happens to be on the right column. We have two different file managers. One is EL File Manager. Sometimes you'll hear me calling it ELF File Manager. And the other one is Pido. And both of them do some great things, but we don't have one that does everything. So we really need to have two of them. So I'm going to look at my ELF File Manager because it allows me to make copies, where my Pido is harder to do that. So here under Public HTML, I've created a folder for my advanced web development, and in there I have these assign 1 PHP, assign 2 PHP, assign 3 PHP, assign 4 PHP, and let's go back and just look at those. When we go to assignment 1, it brings up the assignment 1 PHP file. If we go to assignment 2, we would have different research and different before and after examples, and this is assignment 2. Under assignment 3, I haven't put any exact files yet, and the same with assignment 4. I haven't created the assignment 5 file yet, so that's going to give me an error, and it says I can't find it. Well, we can't find it because it doesn't exist. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm going to make a copy of 4. I'm going to make a copy of it. And where did it go? Why don't I just do a duplicate? I'll just do a duplicate on it, because duplicate automatically puts it in there. So here is my assign 4 copy. So I'm going to rename this, and I just want to call it assignment 5. Oops. There it is, assignment 5. Now, if I want to edit this assignment 5, and the reason I'm showing you this is that there might be a time when you want to edit them online. And notice how when you just click it, all it does is display it. What I want to do is I want to edit it. So all these little icons up at the top, I want to go in and I could duplicate it here. I could also rename it here, and I can edit the file here. So let's edit that file. But when you edit it in EL File Manager, ELF Manager, you don't really get any of the color coding, and it's kind of hard to look at it. So for editing, I like to go back to my File Manager, and I like to go into Pido. And I'm going to launch Pido. And when I launch Pido, I'm going to go into my public HTML, and from there I'm going to go into my advanced Word, and I'm going to go into this assign 05 PHP file. So here I have all my color coding, and what I want to do is I now want this to say assignment 5, and I want this header 2 to be assignment 5, and I want to change the directory that these go into to assignment 5. Okay, and now I want to save this. I'm just going to save it. I want to show you that here it has our PHPinclude. So rather than this being a whole HTML file, this is a PHP file that has the PHPinclude file. So let's look at this header. Let's go back here and let's look at the header file. So when I go into the header file, it just shows me part of my HTML. And in that header, it's going to have the title. It's going to have all of my CSS files, which are just one responsive navigation.css, only one footer, so that when you want to make a change to that style sheet, you just have to change it in one spot. And before we started learning about server-side languages, we didn't have any way of taking our redundant code and putting it in one file, so that if we made one change to one file, it would change it across all of our website. So that's what the header looks like. Let's go back and let's look at the navigation. So here's the navigation file, and when we come in here, we do have a little PHP up at the beginning, but really all it is a PHP. It's just some comments. This is actually an HTML file because it doesn't have any PHP in it, but at some point we might put some PHP in it, so that's usually why, even if it's just an HTML file, if you're running a PHP site, you name all of those files .php, because you could potentially put some PHP in it, and you don't want everything to break, you don't want all your links to break, and so we name them all PHP files. So if I wanted to change my navigation, and I wanted to put in an assignment 15 or another something else to be in my drop-down menu, I would only have to change it in one file. Now, some of you may have used Dreamweaver. It's very common. And Dreamweaver kind of gives you the impression that you only have one file, that you only have to change your navigation in one place, or your header in one place, or your footer in one place. But what Dreamweaver actually does is it really updates all the parts of all the files, so that when you go to upload that, you have to upload the entire website again, which could be hundreds and hundreds of pages, versus doing it in PHP or some other server-side language where you only have to upload one file. You only have to upload a footer file or a header file or a navigation file, or however you have it set up. So here we have a header file, we have the navigation file, and in this one I put in a footer file. Let's look at that footer file. So here's our footer. It's pretty straightforward. You probably want to update it with your name, and you probably want to update it with the year in case it changes, when it does change. So you only have to change that once, and it changes it throughout the entire site, or for as many files as you've included here. So that is how we are able to make changes easily and consistently, just like we do with our CSS, just like we do with our JavaScript. We now can do it with segments of HTML by using the PHPinclude and require. So I recommend that you go out to PHP and go through this assignment, and then as you're making your menu for your assignments in the class, that you reduce redundancy, and it's going to make making changes and being really dynamic so much easier. Thanks so much, and if you have any questions, just to give me a call or send me an email. Thank you very much.